Welcome, both of you. Michael, I want to start with you. So when Cy Vance is able to get a hold of these tax returns, these financial documents, and present them to the grand jury, we know at least initially this investigation was all about hush money payments, which you were involved with. What might these financial documents, these tax returns, show on that front?
Well, obviously, we don't know what the tax returns show because nobody has seen it as of yet. But you can rest assured that Donald Trump has done everything in his power within which to try to keep everybody, or at least the district attorney Cyrus Vance, from seeing it. You know, remember the Hans Christian Andersen book, The Emperor's New Clothes? I think we're going to need to see a sequel to that book called The Emperor Has No Clothes, because what will ultimately show is that Donald Trump, with the hush money payments, did not declare it for in whatever way that you would declare it. I'm not an accountant, so I don't know, but I'm sure you can't deduct it as a legal fee or some other manner, which I'm certain that that's exactly what he did.
Cy Vance has also said that they have moved on to investigating other financial matters as well. I know you testified, Michael, in front of Congress that Donald Trump deflated and inflated his assets depending on who he was reporting to. What might these documents reveal about that?
Well, I'm not sure because we don't have the exact tax documents in front of us. But one thing you will see is that that's not the only documents that Cyrus Vance is looking for. Recently, he subpoenaed from the New York Department of Taxation for real estate properties that are owned by Trump, and he will compare those, obviously, to the tax returns. And, you know, it's one thing I can turn around and tell you: he should start maybe speaking to somebody about getting a custom-made jumpsuit, because it does not look good for him. That's my prediction.
Joyce, Michael there implying that he's going to be hauled off to prison. Is that the kind of scenario or the ending that could happen from a case like this?
Well, it could, Katie. I think it's always risky to crystal ball too far into a criminal prosecution. But Cy Vance has sent some signals that this is a serious investigation. He has recently hired a former Southern District of New York prosecutor, Mark Pomerantz, who's well known for his ability to handle complicated financial cases. That suggests that this grand jury investigation has been productive, and perhaps that Cy Vance intends to proceed towards indictment, especially now that he'll have the tax returns, probably the very last piece of evidence that he needs to evaluate in this case.
What are the steps that this investigation will now take? I mean, what is the timeline on this now that they're about to get these records, Joyce?
It's tough to put a timeline on it, Katie, but essentially the Supreme Court's ruling today means it's all over but the shouting. Vance is now entitled to these tax returns. The former president may file a couple of other pleadings. Perhaps he'll file a cert petition with the Supreme Court. But the court has ruled, and Vance is entitled to these taxes. So once he has these in hand, he reaches a decision point fairly quickly, I would think, whether to indict or not. If so, what the scope of that indictment will be. And then it's time to go. Then it's time to make sure that the case is put together, that all the evidence he needs is admissible. And at some point, you know, you either go or you don't go. But there's an interesting nuance here, because in the course of Vance's investigation, he may discover evidence that would be of use to federal prosecutors with federal crimes. And in that case, he can go to the court, he can obtain what's called a sharing order, and he can transfer evidence that he receives through the grand jury to any interested federal prosecutors. So there is a lot of potential criminal exposure for the president here. He's always been so very touchy about his taxes. We don't know for sure if that's just because of what they indicate about his net worth or if there's more and greater concerns involved in these documents.
Well, Joyce, there are a lot of investigations that Donald Trump is facing now that he's out of office, potentially a lot of criminal investigations, including civil investigations and cases that could come. Where does this one line up amongst all the others?
This is a really interesting case because it straddles both the president's pre-presidency conduct and his conduct during the election, during the campaign. As you pointed out, And as Michael discussed, this entire investigation that Vance has been progressing with really stems from the Stormy Daniels situation and whether the former president violated campaign finance law and possibly tax law with how he handled payments to Stormy Daniels that were essentially hush money. But this also implicates his long-term business practices and whether he inflated properties to get loans, which would be some species of bank fraud, and decreased value of property when accounting for them for tax purposes, tax fraud. So this runs the spectrum of his personal, business, and political conduct.
Michael, you know Donald Trump better than any of us do. You have a long relationship, a long history with him. Yes, it's been broken over the past couple of years, but I think it's still fair to ask you to try and dive into the mind of Donald Trump right now. What is he thinking as he faces this investigation, this case with Cy Vance? Is it because he doesn't want anyone to know that he doesn't make so much money? Is that at the heart of this? Or are there some real financial legal issues here, which is why he's been so adamant about refusing to release his taxes?
So it's the latter. It has to do with that he knows that once they start to look through and they put a brain trust behind the documents to take it apart and to show all of the various actions taken by Trump and others. That's something I also wanted to add to Joyce's comments. It doesn't just deal with Donald Trump. There are a multitude of people that are also being investigated by the district attorney. This is not just singular to Donald Trump. You have Alan Weisselberg, the CFO. You have the Trump children and other people as it relates to insurance fraud, bank fraud, wire fraud, et cetera. But he is concerned, not only from a financial standpoint, meaning that he knows when he gets caught with the tax evasion or with the bank fraud, there are crime frauds, there are bank fraud penalties that will increase the amount. And right now, Donald Trump is not liquid. It's something that obviously has been a problem for the Trump organization over the course of the last 4 years since Donald became president. But he's extremely nervous right now. He's extremely agitated, from what I understand, simply because the Supreme Court, who he thinks that he placed enough members in the Supreme Court that they should have ruled in his favor. Then again, of course, being disloyal to him. So he's angry about that as well. He has a lot of anger issues going on right now as a result of the Supreme Court decision.
Well, he has just released a statement on this saying that it continues the witch hunt against him. He also repeats at the end of the statement that there were election crimes committed against him, repeating presumably the big lie that the election was stolen. Michael Cohen, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you. Joyce Vance, thank you as well.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.